Ramadan Mubarak, Ramadan Karim to all our Grange community, those who celebrate Ramadan and Eid, and those who don't. We are a community of diversity. We believe that diversity is wealth and strength, and we want to live together and respect each other. It's our Grange CC way: confidence for ourselves, consideration for others. And I'm so honored today to be joined by a wonderful person who I met many years ago. This is Jumana Moon, who is a Muslim storyteller. And I just had this idea in these COVID times. I wish we could have our Eid fair. I wish we could have, it's a dream, a Grange dream, to have a communal iftar one day. But I thought at least we can use the power of technology to break down the barriers, to cross the boundaries, and to bring peace into the world and hear a wonderful story. And just before I hand over, I think for me, in this Ramadan, our pupils and our staff who celebrate have just made it so meaningful and wonderful in our Grange community. The best comment for me, which opened my heart, a year 6 girl said to me, "Mr. Kerbel, do you know why Muslims fast in Ramadan?" And of course, I went in to try and access my knowledge bank. And I said, well, I know about the 5 pillars of Islam, and I know about Som, fasting is one of them in Ramadan. And I said, I know that the angel Jibril gave the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the Quran in this holy month of Ramadan. And this year 6 Grange girl looked at me and said, and she looked at me and she said, Muslims fast because they want to get into the shoes of homeless people and feel like what it is to not have food so we can make the world a better place. And I thought that words that come from the heart sit on the heart, and that brings blessing and power. And that's what we are all about at Grange, learning from each other. So I'm going to hand over to Jumana to share an Eid story with us, a Ramadan story with us, so we can all grow together.
Daniel, thank you so much. And Ramadan Mubarak to you, and Ramadan Mubarak to everyone at school. And thank you so much for inviting me to do this recording with you. That's just wonderful to connect this way. And I'm glad the technology's allowed us to do that. So I have a really nice story that I'd like to share with you today. It's a story inspired by this beautiful book called Drummer Girl by Hiba Masood, and published by the wonderful Daybreak Press, who specialise in works by Muslim women. And it's a wonderful story about Ramadan. And I think you've heard it before, so I'm glad to tell it to you again today, Daniel. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Once upon a time, there was a young girl called Iman who lived in a large city. It was a city of narrow streets and tall minarets. It was a city of busy markets with handcarts piled up with beautiful produce like deep red tomatoes and fresh cucumbers and warm bread, warm round flatbread. Iman, she loved her city. And for her, the time when her city came to life, the time that she loved the most, was the month of Ramadan. She loved everything about it. She loved looking for the crescent moon on those first nights to welcome the month. She loved gathering with her family to eat and break the fast at the end of the day. She loved hearing the night prayers and the sound of the Quran, the letters of Arabic rippling like water on the evening breeze. She loved it when Eid came and they bought new clothes and they had Eid sweets and celebrations. She loved all of it. But there was one thing she loved most of all, and that was the Musaharati. Now you might be thinking, What does Jumana mean by the musaharati? Let me tell you. So the meal that Muslims have when it's still dark, before dawn begins, to set us up for the fasting day and to make our prayers and intentions, is called suhoor. And if you miss suhoor, you might have a bit of a hard day's fast. It's a very blessed meal and a very blessed time. And so there's this wonderful tradition in Muslim countries where someone goes through the streets of the neighborhood with a drum, playing the drum and calling out to everyone, wake up. It's time for your suhoor. It's time to worship. Wake up. And this is the job of the musaharati. Their voice like a prayer in the night. Their drum like a heartbeat. Would you like to hear a little bit of what it might sound like? How does this sound? Can you hear my drum okay? So it would sound like this. وحد الله يا عباد الله وحد الله يا عباد الله رمضان كريم ويحب كل الكريم رمضان كريم ويحب كل الكريم. And then the musaharati might come to your house. They might come to your house, Daniel, and they might stand under your window. Suhurak ya Daniel. Suhurak ya Daniel. And they would name the people in the neighborhood and wake them up. And the words I said were things like, Ramadan is noble and generous and loves everyone who is generous, just like your year 6 pupil. And call on Allah, O servants of Allah, and wake up and be ready for your day of fasting. And so when Iman, the very first time she heard the drum beat and the voice of the musaharati, she fell in love with it. And every Ramadan, it was the thing she waited for the most, as the sound of the musaharati came closer and closer to her house. And she would think to herself, I want to be the musaharati one day. I want to walk the streets of the neighborhood. I want to be the one who calls. I want to be the one who wakes people up. I want to be the drummer girl. But you know, no girl had ever been the musaharati before. And she wondered to herself, could I ever do it? Well, one particular year, this year that we join Iman in her story, an opportunity presented itself. The old man who'd been the musaharati in the neighborhood for many years, he retired. And his sons, his grandsons, they were not interested in being the musaharati. And the neighborhood talked about how there was no one to take the job, and perhaps the tradition would die out for them. And when Iman heard this, a spark in her mind. What if I do it? What if this is the year I become the musaharati? She wanted to speak to her parents about it. She went to speak to them. Somehow the words shriveled inside her. She tried again. It didn't come out. Maybe you know what that's like when you want to say something, but it doesn't quite come. But she tried again. She summoned all her courage and she said to her parents, I want to be the musaharati. I want to be the drummer girl. Her brother laughed. He said, you can't be the musaharati. Girls can't be the musaharati. But her parents held up their hands and said, no. Iman will make her own path in life. And they made Iman no promises that day, but they said they would think about it. All day she waited with anticipation. Still her parents said nothing. She didn't sleep much that night, but when she woke up, what did she find? Next to her place at breakfast, a drum. A new drum, just for her. Well, when everyone saw the crescent moon to let them know that Ramadan had begun, Iman took her drum and she wrapped her shawl tightly around her and she went with her father out into the dark streets for that very first day of Ramadan. This was before the sun had even risen, before the first glimmer of dawn, when everything is tranquil and the hearts are at peace. A sacred time, a blessed time. And she began to walk through the silent streets. And she raised her drum and she raised her voice. وحد الله يا عباد الله رمضان كريم ويحب كل الكريم سهورك يا دانيال سهورك يا دانيال رمضان كريم ويحب كل الكريم. The people in their houses, her friends and neighbours, they thought, who is that? Is that the voice of a girl calling for suhoor? They looked out their windows and they saw Iman walking, her back straight, her drum raised, her father beside her. Her drum like a heartbeat, her words like a prayer. Some people laughed. What are you doing? They said. We can't have a girl be the Musaharati. Others listened. But you know, when she walked and she called the next night and the night after that and the night after that, no one was laughing. And soon they found they were waiting for her voice clear as a bell, her words like a prayer, her drumbeat like a heartbeat through the darkness of the night to let them know dawn was on its way to prepare them for the next day's fast. By Eid time, they congratulated her and they gave her sweets and they invited her for meals and they thanked her for being their Musaharati. Next year, they said, next year, Iman, you will do it again, won't you? Yes, she said. And you know what? Every year she did. And when she became old, her daughters and her sons did it with her. And then her granddaughters and her grandsons also walked with her through the dark nights of the neighborhood, calling the people to suhoor, calling people to their worship. Their voices like a prayer on the night breeze, their drums like a heartbeat.
Shukran, thank you so much.
So well. You're so welcome. And actually, there is this is also based on a real story. You can find various Musaharati, their calls online, and there is a wonderful story about real stories about a woman in Cairo and other places who became the Musaharati of her neighborhood. So it is in a way based, you know, on the true story of women across the world.
I found the story enriching, and I remember that actually at the start of this recording, I didn't say to you that wonderful greeting, Salam Alaikum. And I thought, what a wonderful greeting that is. Salam Alaikum, may peace be upon you. And then the answer is Alaikum.
Alaikum salam, and upon you be peace also.
And listening to that story, what it also made me realize is sometimes there are huge challenges in our life. People feel that being surrounded by people who are the same as you is easier. Sameness is just the way. And just like that little girl in the story, the point is actually we can dream, we can imagine a world that is better because we are able to live with peace upon each other, next to each other, with the real blessing of diversity. So that story is uplifting, enriching, and it makes me feel our Grange vision at our school is a very powerful vision of a world where every child is filled with confidence and consideration. And that makes me think also of something that happened during Ramadan in year 6 with the children. Some of the children who are fasting, they can come to the library for a bit of time away from food and where other children are eating. And I am very grateful to a teacher who came up with that idea, and we put that together. But the first day when that happened, and I volunteered to be with the children as much as possible in those library sessions, and other teachers have helped and given their time as well, and educators. One of the children brought her own prayer mat, and she prayed. But I was talking to the children, and one of the children said, "I'm not so sure about this," because she said, "I need to do wuzu, and I feel a bit uncomfortable doing that in the bathroom in case somebody comes in." And I said, no, we want to have a school where you are able to celebrate who you are, where you are confident enough to be able to do that. And we talked about how you could answer somebody who says, "What are you doing?" And we talked about, even as a staff, is giving the message to everybody that when you see something that you don't understand, or is a bit strange, or is not part of your knowledge base, rather than saying "how weird," you say, "How wonderful. Could I learn some more, please? Could I understand a bit more?" And that's really, that encouraged more children to feel secure. And they told me afterwards, "Yes, no, I was absolutely fine, did wuzu, and came in and prayed." And ultimately, it's everybody's choice who they want to be, and they should be confident in that and considerate. So this story to me is a powerful, uplifting, inspirational support message for keep going with this dream of a world of peace, of diversity, and diversity that means we celebrate each other and respect each other and learn from each other and grow from each other, and ultimately bring more honor to God through that kind of a relationship. So thank you very, very much, Jumana.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome, Daniel. And I hope everyone enjoyed the story, and I hope you enjoyed the story. You had your suhoor there from the drummer girl. She was calling you. And I really wish everyone the blessings of this month and the blessings of Eid also.
Amen. Thank you.